Good morning, everybody. We are still building a VFR 800, or we're trying to repair this VFR 800 at this point. And so I've got a couple updates from last week where I ended up ordering some parts. This guy here, so throttle body stuff, kind of interesting to me at least. So the throttle body's got all these hoses and stuff on the bottom here, right? And I thought about replacing some of these if I could. There's like this little guy here, this like 6-inch piece of 1/8-inch diameter tubing. You can still buy this. It's $83. What the heck, man? So we are not doing that. I'm gonna try and, I need to run to the auto parts store and get some actual tubing, just straight tubing. We'll try and make stuff work on here if necessary. I'm probably gonna avoid replacing a lot of this stuff just because of the cost, and it's functional as is. So, and then the other part was this guy here, our fuel cap for our fuel tank. I'm pretty sure someone in the comments was trying to tell me this, and it just took me a few days for me to like figure it out in my head or whatever, but like, or to understand what they were saying. But this guy, I can't get the key out because there's a function on this where when you shut the gas tank, right? You shut it down and you have to sort of push it down, right? And then turn the key. Well, that's because this mechanism here, it's actually, this moves, this little spot on top here moves, and that pushes down, and that's what helps to release the key. So I have not tried this yet. In theory, if I push stuff down, yeah, the key comes right out. So I just didn't understand how this worked. You could call me a moron, but I mean, I think that might be a little harsh. So now that we know that, is this really in that bad a shape? I do want to replace this rubber seal on here because I feel like that would be very smart of me to do. One of the ways that gas tanks do end up rusting on the inside is when this rubber seal no longer seals and it allows moisture and oxygen and everything into the tank, and that's what causes rust. So we need to make sure we have a good seal on here. So I looked to order a new gas tank cap, whatever, right? You can get the stock one. Again, it's like 175, 180 bucks for the stock one from Honda, and that's really hard for me to swallow. So what I did, and I do want to retain this key thing here, I did figure out how to take this apart, and we will do that later once I get, what I did is order another one that is a different model motorcycle, but theoretically, it's a bit of a stretch because it's not the exact part number, but I'm hoping it is the same size and whatnot, and why it's a different part number, it must vary slightly somewhere, but I'm hoping it is close enough that we can make it work, and at least get this rubber gasket off of the other one and swap it onto here. And I'm hoping a bunch of the internals as well we can swap out. So we'll see how that works, but I ordered another, basically off of eBay, a used one for like 20 bucks or whatever it was. And I'm hoping to be able to just take this one apart and swap out just the key lock, the key tumbler here, and swap it into the new one and be able to transfer that whole thing into our gas tank. That would be ideal. We'll see how that works out. Wow, it actually, God damn it. It seems like it works great now that I know how to make it work. It seems to be working pretty good. This whole thing is just one part number. You can't order anything separately off of this, which is unfortunate. I really wanted to order just the O-ring, the gasket on there. Oh, and then also, I did run out and get some kerosene this weekend. So that is for a gas tank. I want to line the gas tank with that once we scrub it out. I need to find something to throw in the gas tank. I think I've got some pieces of chain I can throw in there. Let's take a look. So I've got this one little piece of chain, and that's all I got for chain. I do have this bag of like old sockets and stuff that I acquired at some point. And these are all crusty and rusty already. I might as well throw them inside a crusty fuel tank filled with vinegar. They might actually de-rust a little bit. I mean, that would be cool. Just trying to find some of the smaller ones that can actually fit into the tank. Let's see, I just need stuff that will tumble around inside that tank and sort of smash into the wall where that rust is just hanging on and break it off. And I want to sort of keep track of these. I'm going to count them so I know how many I'm throwing in there and make sure I get them all out later on. 10, 12, like 14. That's pretty good. 14 and a piece of chain. And then also updates on these fuel level sender. We looked at this last time. This is all rusty. We tried to test it and it does, and the sort of rheostat sort of aspect on the side here where it has a variable sort of electronic output. This guy, I wasn't so sure about whether this is working correctly, and so I wanted to order a new one. They don't sell this anymore. Honda does not send it. They don't make these. These aren't available anymore off of the parts list. So back to eBay, I tried to find a newer model VFR, the newest one I could find, so that this would be as less used as possible. So I ordered one of those. It's off a different model year, different generation. It's not the same part number. It looks exactly the same as this. Clearly they made some changes of some kind. I'm hoping it fits right in, but if things are different on there somehow where it won't fit in, I will adapt it. I will cut off a piece here and weld it onto this part or whatever I've got to do to make that work. But I want to try and get the working part, which is the electronics there. I want to swap that out with the new stuff, with something that's newer and better condition. And then this guy, the part numbers on this are interesting as well, because you can order this entire unit, right, for $475. This is our fuel pump, fuel filter, all that stuff is in one unit here. And you can order the whole thing still from Honda, but you can't order the individual pieces. Like the fuel pump is no longer available. I think the fuel filter was available. You can order all these little rubber hoses and whatnot on here, and the rubber gaskets, those are all available. So that's what I did. I ordered all the little rubber stuff from Honda. There was like this little sort of stainless scrubby thing here, which I looked up and I found out that this is your return, your fuel line return. So when you're pumping out, you pump out fuel through this line from the gas tank, and then there's a return line back to the gas tank for excess fuel or whatever, pressure release, that sort of thing. And it goes back into here. I still don't understand the function of the little stainless scrubby sponge thing, but we ordered a new one to have it in there. So I've got all this rubber stuff coming. That will probably take a couple weeks, as all the OEM stuff takes forever to get that. I can't order a new fuel pump from Honda, so I did order an aftermarket one, and I'm hoping that works well. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of choices. They all seem to be the same pump from different people. Basically, some of the reviews were like, "Oh, this thing it lasted like 2 years or whatever," and that was it, whatever. And I'm hoping that's because they weren't riding it very much, and I'm hoping that if you actually ride the bike, run it frequently, that you don't end up killing the pump quite as fast. So instead of $475, I spent like half of that, like $220 or something like that. We're gonna have the opportunity to have the fun of sort of rebuilding a fuel pump on a VFR here. I want to drain out some liquid from this fuel tank, try and so that we can get some stuff in there and actually slosh it around a little bit. I probably need to have some sort of plug for the top here so that I can turn it every which way and actually make it work. I probably could stick the fuel cap back on there, couldn't I? That's probably the simplest solution. All right, I do want to drain this out a little bit, so let's do that. making a mess. Chaos has erupted. Six gallons of vinegar is kind of heavy, I'm just saying. That and my back is bothering me a little bit because I have emotional problems. So today's not the greatest day to be slinging around 6 gallons of vinegar, but you know, this is what makes sense to do today. So I've drained out most of that. Let me do some cleanup here. So take a look at, I mean, this looks, I don't know how well you can see that, but that looks like pure metal right on top there, which is just pretty impressive, I think, for vinegar. Vinegar does the job. I've heard other people that use, like, I think vinegar and baking soda to do rust stuff, but the vinegar by itself works, does the job, man. You don't need extra stuff, really. All right, so let's throw our piece of chain in here if we can. It's in now. And our 14 little sockets. Drop all those in there. And I'm making sure to count them because we need to make sure they all come out later. And let's sort of throw this around. It's crazy, man. All right, put this cap back on. Now we're going to see how watertight this is. That seal, how good that seal is actually doing. I can't believe I put that back on after how hard it was to take off. So now I can turn it upside down. This seems to help to get it to move all the way from one side to the other. I can feel the sockets going back and forth. Whereas when I'm doing this, the water moves, but the sockets aren't moving as much. I'm tired, man. I did pull-ups this morning and my biceps are already tired. So the volume of fluid in here is a little unmanageable at the moment, so I'm gonna transfer it with this transfer pump into this bottle here so that I can get to the point where I can pour it in there. Otherwise, I'm gonna end up with vinegar all over the floor, man. So what I want to do is take this cap back off and drain the rest of this fluid into the bucket, and I'm gonna go rinse this thing out with the hose and see if we can look on the inside of it and see what kind of condition we've got. And then I might put more vinegar in it, or I might put the kerosene in it, depending on how well we're doing. If we need to keep treating it, if it needs to get more rust out, we'll put the vinegar back in. But at the moment, I'm pretty optimistic. I feel like this is working and we're getting somewhere. I mean, it's never as fast as I would like it to be, but we are getting somewhere. Let's take a look. Oh, you can see. This is hard to do with the camera. You can see the walls there. We can actually see some bare metal. There's still some rust in there. But wow, is that an improvement over what it was. Let's see what happens if I poke that rust with a stick. So the rust seems to like just flake off if you scrub it with a stick. So that indicates to me that if I can just abrade this some more, we might be in business. We might get a rust-free tank. Cause yeah, that stuff just flakes right off and it's bare metal underneath. So I rinsed it out to try and get the big chunks of rust out of there, which I was mildly successful at. I feel like that's gonna be a bit of a challenge. But if we look down in here, like you can see just piles of rust on the bottom, on the bottom there, but you can also see a lot of bare metal, which is awesome. I'm very happy with how this is turning out. I mean, that is some pretty clean metal in there. So I put the cap back on the top, the fuel cap, and I'm going to pour a bunch of this vinegar back into the tank and let it sit some more, because there's rust like specifically near the top where the cap is, like right around that fill port. I'd like to remove all of the rust if I can, so we'll do this again. All right, so there's my fluid level. It's right near the top, but I've still got a few inches of air on the top here. And you can hear, if you listen, the water dripping down through that gas cap on the top. So I only have so much time before this drains down into that bucket. I'll probably leave it in here overnight again, and we'll come back again and shake it tomorrow. Shake it, shake it. What's there? There's a song for that, isn't it? I know there's a song. So pretty happy with how this is turning out. I think it's going pretty good. So next, I'd like to throw some oil into the bike. I just have a couple random quarts here, left over from whatever, and I'm gonna throw those in there just basically because we're gonna run this engine and we're gonna drain it out at least once. If we're really lucky, it'll only be once. It's gonna change the filter, all that stuff, you know, after we run it and let it warm up a couple times. So the weight of oil I don't think really matters at this point. Let's look up what weight it's supposed to have. Recommended oil 10W40. This is 10W30, so it's pretty close. And we're not gonna be running it at high temperatures, which is where you get into the 30 versus 40 difference. And so it doesn't really matter. So the engine takes 4 quarts. We only have 2. I need to go out and get some more oil. But for right now, I'm gonna throw these 2 in there. One of the things I'm trying to sort of test or whatever is to see if the engine will leak, if I've got this thing, sealed up or not. So this will start to give us a clue at least. Taking off our new oil fill cap here. That's pretty cool. Put our little filler in here. I actually need to make sure we tighten the drain plug on this, because I know that was just sort of, I just sort of threw that on there. So I want to snug that down. And then everything else has been torqued down. So we should be in really good shape here. All right, so that didn't do much because we're not even close into there's no oil showing in my little window here. So we're just getting oil into that sump at the very bottom. So I need to go get more oil. So another thing I'm considering for this bike in the long term here is an M unit, which is an expensive little piece of technology that goes on. I mean, I think they're like $300, something like that, that they go on, that you wire everything into those and they replace a number of things on the bike. I think, I have to look this up again. I think they replace a lot of the relays and stuff like that, where it all becomes this sort of electronic computer controlled relay instead. So it saves a lot of space, which covers one of my issues with this bike because it has a bunch of bulky relays on it. So like this guy back here, bulky relay. And then we've got several bulky relay things up here on the front. So there's at least 3 relays that I can replace. And it also replaces like the little fuse box here. This also could be gotten rid of. So it would save me space on this bike, which is a major consideration. On every custom bike I have tried to build, I'm always trying to minimize, like reduce the amount of clutter as much as possible on the bike to have, because you always want these clean lines on it, right? I've yet to use one of these M units. I've known about them for years. I would like to try it out. If you're not familiar with them, they're made by a company called Moto Gadget, which is a German company. They make very nice stuff. And it also gives you a bunch of other capability. It has like a Bluetooth connection on it, so you can turn your bike on and off with your phone, I believe, and stuff like that. But it's really the space-saving thing that is the major selling point for me. If anybody else has tried these out, has any opinions on them, let me know. So back to current day though, I would like, right now, I guess we can throw the exhaust back onto the VFR and sort of get that thing on there, and we're trying to get this thing prepped to try and run it. It may be very optimistic of me, but that's what we're trying to do. Other than that, we're sort of waiting for a bunch of parts to show up so we can get other things going. Let's see if we can pull the exhaust out of our bin of parts here. Here's what's left of the muffler part, which we are not going to be using, at least not at the moment. This is nice stainless steel though. Those guys. This is the main bit, and this is heavy too. So I do wonder about this because it does have some poundage to it. This is, man, it's gotta be at least 5 pounds. And this looks like it's gotta have a lot of weight in this section right here. And this is all like the catalytic converter stuff, I would bet, in there. But what's interesting to me is like the oxygen sensors are before. I'm used to on cars where they have like an oxygen sensor before the catalytic converter and one after the catalytic converter, but not so on this case. And so I really wish I knew more about how the computer stuff reads things to know how I could modify it. Because don't think I don't have in mind the idea of possibly making my own exhaust for this bike. All right. If I recall, getting this off was a bit problematic in terms of the center stand. I think that was an issue, a conflict there. Let's see, make sure I comprehend what's going on here, what needs to happen correctly. There's a little hanger on the center of this exhaust that I'm trying to align that thing first. I also have the swing arm is just sort of sitting here at the moment too, which is also possibly in my way. This exhaust has like 3 pieces, so these 2 go on the back 2 cylinders, and they come down and connect into these pipes here. Trying to figure out which one is which. This swing arm is getting in my way again. All right, it's out of the way. It's out of the way for now. So yeah, just trying to sort out which one of these is which. I feel like it should be way more obvious. So luckily, when one of these still has the little gasket here, the little exhaust seal on it, and the other one does not, and so that one, the seal is still inside the tube there. So clearly that's that one. And that is called deductive reasoning. What am I missing here? What the heck? There's some weird magic going on right now. How many other ways can this possibly go on there? So, see if you can tell me what I'm doing wrong. Because I line it up down there, and look, it is off by like 3 or 4 inches. It's not like you can turn it upside down. Like, what the heck? Wait a minute. Do these crisscross or something? That would make more sense. All right. I think I need to drop this out of its little hanger for a second so we can get these things lined up. Yeah, they crisscross. These pipes do this. They crisscross down there, and that's how it works. Boy, that was not obvious to me. This is fun. This is a bit of a puzzle to get all this stuff aligned. This is one of those times where I'm like, I really need like a table for this bike to be on. Because getting down on the ground, it's okay for a little bit, but it does start to wear on you. God, this does not want to line up. Just trying to get some nuts on here. All right, that's done. All right, now I just need to tighten these guys down. That's what we got so far for the exhaust, and that's enough for me to run this thing and see. It'll be loud as hell, but I can at least get it running. Look how dirty my knees are. That's a good start to the week. All right, I'm gonna see if I can get out of here and get some more oil, and I think that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow.